Welcome. In this video, I'm going to give you a brief overview of the Greek New Testament Study app. This is a program I wrote to help me in reading the Greek New Testament and also to keep up with my Koine Greek. And it will be quite brief. So here in the program itself, if you click over on the About icon, this is the excruciatingly not brief section of the program. There are complete instructions here on how to do everything in the program. You can click on any of these and open up the section, and it will show you in great detail how to use the program, what you can do, what your options are, etc. Also, if you look down here at the bottom of this page, there are a number of instructional videos. You can click on any of these to watch these. And finally, if you go to my website here, claypotfrog.com, you'll find all this information. You'll find the videos. You'll also find links to installers. This is a mobile app, but it does run on desktops, Windows, Macintosh, and Linux. And so if you go to claypotfrog.com, you can find links to the Play Store, the App Store, and installers for desktop versions. So let's dive in and talk about the program. So here we are on the Read page. This is the heart of the program. This is where you read the Greek New Testament. So here on the Greek tab, we have the text of the Greek New Testament from the Society for Biblical Literature. And here on the English tab, we have the text of the Lexham English Bible by Logos Bible Software. You can change the font of either of these here. We'll make this, let's say, a sans serif font. You see it changes here. We accept that. Also, notice that these are synced. So as I either scroll down or if I come up here and change the chapter, I'm now in John 8. And on the Greek side, there I am in John 8. And the point of this is to read the Greek New Testament. So I'm going to go back up here to John 1. Let's imagine we're reading along. We come to this final word here, kateleben. Kai heskotia autau kateleben. So the darkness could not something it. You come to a word you're not sure of, simply click on it. That will bring up this blue box. It'll show you the dictionary entry for the word. This comes from Catalambano. Here's the gloss for the word. Here's the part of speech, and it parses it for you. So you know that this is an aorist active indicative, third person singular. The darkness could not seize it, overtake it, comprehend it. Up here in the upper right, you'll have the number of times that this word appears in any form in the Greek New Testament. If you click away or start scrolling, then the blue box disappears. If you want more information about this word, click on the blue box itself. You'll go to the details page. You can click on all of these. You can change the gloss if you want. You can redo the principal parts if you want. For any verb that appears 10 times or more in the Greek New Testament, you'll have the principal parts. Also, you can see all the occurrences. We'll click on this line. You see, here's all the places that this appears, and I can click on any of these and show those verses with the word highlighted. Once it's open, if you click on it, then it will actually take you back there. Here's the word we were looking at. Notice the word is now highlighted, and it's highlighted everywhere in this book. If we were to scroll through, you'd see that any place that Catalambano appears, it will be highlighted. Also, notice here in the details page, there's these forms. This will show you every form that this word appears in anywhere in the Greek New Testament. And if you click on these lines, then it takes you back to another, we call this the occurrences page, but it takes you to where you only see this one. We're only seeing katalambanamai, that particular form. Same thing here. Remember, our kateleben is what we were looking at. We click, sure enough, there's our John 1:5. So, hopefully, being able to click on words that you don't recognize, get a parsing, get a gloss, that will help you as you're reading the Greek New Testament. Of course, you have another advantage, something else you can use, and that is you can come over here on the English side, since they're linked, and you can see what the translators of the Lexham English Bible thought. Also, notice there's some visual clues in this translation. Anything that is italics and in brackets means those are words that the translators had to supply. They're not in the original Greek. Either they're implied or the translators needed to add them so it would make sense in English. Anything that's underlined means it's an idiom, so they can't translate it literally. The Lexham English Bible tries to be fairly literal, which is why it's helpful in translation, but sometimes, obviously, Greek does things differently from English. Any place you see these blue ampersand, those are the translator's notes. So here in this idiom, whose name was, we can click on this, and it will tell us, actually in Greek, what this says is the name to him. And you can go through and click on all these and see what the translators thought. So in fact, here's our kateleben. They've chosen to translate it overcome, but there's a note that could also mean comprehend. So hopefully having all of this at your fingertips as you're reading the Greek New Testament will help you and will make it more enjoyable. Let's look now at the Forms page. this is where you can review your Koine Greek grammar. All these lines below the dotted lines are parts of speech in Greek that take various endings. So for instance, I'm going to click on the line first declension nouns. You can click on any of these lines to get more information. And again, you can now click on these lines again to see the actual endings. Here's the base form for the first declension nouns. Here are those forms applied to feminine nouns. Here are those forms applied to masculine nouns. Now, these pages are static. Clicking on them doesn't do anything. It's simply for review. So in omega verbs, we'll open that up, and obviously if you've studied Greek, you know there's a lot of endings on verbs. So imagine we're reviewing our aorist passive. You can click here. Here's all your aorist passive endings presented to you as your textbook would on the verb luo. There is also back here in this first line a way for you to review verb forms. If you click on that, you'll see this first drop-down box gives us the option of reviewing verb forms. This is the way they would be presented to you in a textbook, the way you just saw them on the forms page, or to review actual New Testament verbs. Let's look first at verb forms. Let's say we're studying luo, and let's do the aorist passive indicative. Now, you can highlight as many of these as you want. You could go through and say you wanted to see all these things. We'll start with this. You got to have at least one from tense, voice, and mood. You know, every Greek verb has those three things. And then once you've done at least one of all these, the study button will lit up. Now, when I press the study button, it will go through and present me with exactly what I just asked it for. I asked it, remember, for aorist passive indicative, and so when I press study, that's what I'm going to get. Eleuthete. So, well, what is that? That's the second person plural of the aorist passive indicative. Once you think you know what it is, anywhere in here, just click and it'll show it to you. Now, this isn't keeping score or anything. It's just strictly for you. Click anywhere you want, get the next one. Eleuthesan. Okay, that's third person plural of the aorist active indicative of luo. When you think you know, click. Again, strictly for you to practice recognizing verbs. Now let's go back out and let's change this from verb forms to New Testament verbs. This is where we're going to see words that actually appear in the New Testament. So let's come on down to non-contract omega verbs. And let's say this time we want to look at the aorist active indicative. Again, we can type as many of these as we want, and you'll just randomly see a selection of those. We'll go aorist active indicative here. I press the study button. So here we get a word. This word is actually in the Greek New Testament. Elabete. Well, do you know what that is? That's the second person plural of lambano. This is a second aorist. Once you think you know what it is, click anywhere in here. Sure enough, there it is. It's the second person plural of the aorist active indicative of lambano. And there's a lookup button if you want to know more about that word. This takes you to the details page, just like it would if you were reading the Greek New Testament. Again, not keeping score. It's like, okay, I got that. I click again. Apes, what is that? Well, that's the second person singular of apon, which again, a second aorist from Lego. But if you didn't know that, doesn't matter. Click anywhere, it's going to show it to you. This is a way for you to practice reviewing and recognizing verbs, and hopefully from the reviewing your forms and then practicing your verbs, this will help you get better and better at knowing your Koine Greek grammar. And now let's look at the vocabulary page. And this is definitely one where you should go watch the longer videos, because I'm going to rapidly move through this. The program comes with a number of vocabulary lists pre-made that you can use to study by frequency and also by some textbooks. You click on any of these and it takes you to the list where it's been subdivided, because there's about 5,500 words in the Greek New Testament. Trying to study all of them by frequency would be daunting. So we've broken them up. And you enable which ones you want to study. So in frequency, they're broken up by frequency, but let's go down to Duff's Elements of New Testament Greek, and you see they're broken up by chapter, which is what you would expect. But you enable the ones you want to study, and here we are for Duff. And so when you're doing chapter 1, you enable chapter 1. When you get to chapter 2, you enable chapter 2. And then, when you've got that enabled, you click the study button. Now, this program uses what is called spaced repetition. So first we get this word, Yosef. You say, sure, that's Joseph. I know what that is. When you think you know what it is, click anywhere in here. It will show you information about the word. There's a lookup button if you want to go to the details page, but down here you have the spaced repetition. You decide how often, when you need to see this word again. Do you need to see it again today? You click again, it's just going to go to the back of the list. You'll see it again. Or you can say, I want to see this in 1 day, 2 days, or 4 days. Whatever you say, that's what's going to happen. If I click 4 days for Joseph, then I won't see it again if I study tomorrow or the next day. I won't see it again till I study 4 days from now. So I'm going to go through here and I'm just going to click on all these, and I'm going to tell all of them 4 days so you can see how this works. So here we are. We finished studying. Now let's use a little computer magic and go 4 days into the future. Okay, here we are. We're 4 days in the future. Now, watch what happens when I click the study button. Here we are. Notice these are coming out randomly. We don't get them in the same order. Jacob, oh sure, that's Jacob. Once you know, you click anywhere. So we get the same information here. But look down here at the bottom, what's happened. I told it last time to push this one out 4 days. Now, instead of having 1, 2, and 4, I have 2, 4, and 8. This is how spaced repetition works. As you recognize verbs, oh sure, Jacob, I know that, push that out 8 more days. Daweed, maybe I'm not too sure about that. Or if I'm not too sure about that, that's probably a problem, but, you know, work with me here. So I'm like, oh no, I'm not confident of that one. I might say, no, I only want to see that one 2 days from now. Amen. Words that you recognize, you just keep pushing further out because you don't need to see them as much. Words that you're not sure of, you look at sooner and sooner. If you click again, so then notice what's going to happen. I'm just going to click through all these, but we've told again to go to the back of the list. Now when I click on it, we're back to 1, 2, and 4. So whatever you chose for the last time, it appears here in the green. Half of it is to its left and twice that is to the right. You keep pushing out words that you recognize that you don't need to see as often, words that you do need to see more often. They're new or you're having trouble remembering them. You see them more often. This is the point of spaced repetition. You see the things you need to see and you don't waste time on the things that you don't. So let me also show you quickly here on the vocabulary page that you can create your own lists. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to click Edit. I'm going to create a new list. I'm going to call it, cleverly enough, New List. It shows up at the bottom, but I can drag it up here to the top to make it more easier for us to see if I want. When I go into it, of course, there's nothing, but I can create lists in 2 ways. I can just manually type words in. I could type in tithemi if I want, and I could add that word, or I could create frequency lists. I'm going to clear that. I'm going to say, oh, I'm studying 1 Peter. So let's go down here to 1 Peter, and I want to study all the words in 1 Peter. I could choose just the verbs or something if I wanted, but I create the list. Now, these are showing them to me alphabetically. Let's show them to me descending. And I can say, I don't really need to see Kai and the pronoun and the article and some of these. So I'm just going to click this red trash icon and get rid of them. But here, you know, once we get to Christos, Dia, okay, I want those. So I save the list. I give it a name, words from 1 Peter. And I don't want one group of 533 words. I'm going to split these up. Let's make 15 groups. That'll have 35 or 36 words, and I can decide how I split them. I could do them randomly, or in this case, I want to see the more frequent words first, so we'll do count descending. Click Create, and boom, there we are. I have made a new list from the words for 1 Peter. And in fact, I think I'm going to come in here and say, I shouldn't call this new list. I should call this 1 Peter. That would be more descriptive, wouldn't it? So I will click on this. I'll come through. I'll tell it I want to call it 1 Peter. I'll rename it, and there we are, 1 Peter. So you can create lists yourself. Again, check out the much more detailed videos on how to do this. And finally, you can back up your list so that if you need to reinstall later, you can. We click on the gear icon. We tell it create a new account. It goes out to the backup server. Boom, it's created a new account. And that's all you need to do. Now, whenever you make changes, you just click backup. Your information is here, your account ID. You can't change this. It's randomly generated. So copy this down. I took a screenshot of mine. I think that's super helpful. You can also, using backup and synchronize, you can synchronize between the program running on different machines. As long as you save your changes on one machine and then before you start the other, you back it up, it will synchronize. The program notice that we haven't made any changes. But if I come in here to 1 Peter, and make some changes, I'm going to say, yeah, let's study these words. So now I've studied something in 1 Peter. The program knows when I click on here, oh yeah, this is different, and it copies it up to the server. Same thing will happen. If you get a new machine and you link to this account, then it will keep track. It will know when you have changes, and it will know which way to go. And there's also some heuristics built into it if there are any problems. So again, check out the much longer videos. The vocabulary page has a ton of functions and options for you that we're not going to go over now, but it's time to move on to search. So here on the search page, this does exactly what you think it will do. It allows you to search either in Greek words or in Greek forms or for English definitions. English definitions is exactly what you think it is. What definitions have the word strong in it. Greek words are dictionary entries. So for instance, if I type in erkomai, and notice I'm getting Greek as I type in English. Check out the larger search video on how exactly that works and what you need to do to make that work. Greek words is dictionary words, but let's imagine that we type in althone. Well, that's not going to show up on Greek words because it's not a word. That's an aorist from erkomai. But if we change this to Greek forms, notice it shows us this word. And if you click on this, it's going to take you to the details page, just like as if you had clicked on the word somewhere else. You also, finally, you can change whether you search at the beginning, appears anywhere, ends with. So for instance, if I wanted to check out the omega me verbs, well, then I could type in omega me. Begins with isn't going to help me. I'm going to go to ends with, and there they are. Here's all the words that end with omega me. You also have a wildcard search. This allows you complete control. You can use the question mark and the brackets. So let me show you. Imagine I'm trying to work out all the words that begin with a pa and end in me. Now, I can't do that with begins with, appears anywhere, ends with, but I can use the question mark, meaning anything. So I'm going to type in alpha pi question mark mu iota, and here I get all the words that begin with op, because remember the omicron can disappear before before a vowel, and end in me. But if you remember also, the pi will become a phi before a rough breathing. So I also would have to come in and do this. Yep, it turns out there's two more here. And so this is where the brackets work. Brackets create character sets. So I'm going to put a pi and a phi inside brackets, and I'm telling the computer, search for alpha phi anything mu iota, then search for alpha pi anything mu iota, and show them to me. And again, I can change how I sort them. I can say I want to see the most common ones first, but here they are. If you remember, we had 7 alpha pi's and 2 alpha phis, and here they are. We see all of them. So the search function allows you to do in-depth searches on Greek words. I find that super helpful when I'm studying. I hope you will as well. So that's it for our brief introduction to the program. Again, check out the instructional videos. They are much longer and will give you much, much more detail about how this program works. You can go over to claypotfrog.com, my website, and get all of this. Also, down here under Contact, you'll find my contact information. You can reach me at software@claypotfrog.com. I'd love to hear from you if you have ideas on how the program could better serve people in reading the New Testament and keeping up with their Koine Greek, because that is the point of all of this, is to be able to read and to understand well God's Word.